Many months ago on this channel, we introduced the word drama, when talking about our local politics. And now it seems the word drama has come into mainstream media when it comes to describing our politics. Because I was listening to a TV show, a morning TV analysis show. I don't watch many, I watch few, but I just caught one. And the word drama, when describing our local politics, dominated. And this was from a major TV station in Kenya. Well, a couple of months ago, it was not clear where the drama really was in Kenyan politics. But now it's extremely clear. Let me put it this way. Have you watched those high-tension thrillers where the introduction is that you're given various scenarios involving various different characters, and you don't know what the connection between these characters and between these incidences are? But as the movie progresses or as the TV series progresses, you get to understand more, and you're able to connect how the various different incidences and characters are all linked to the same thing and to the same drama. And this is precisely what is unfolding right now as I make this recording in Kenyan politics. Now let me paint a few scenarios for you. All of them, I believe, are linked. The Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya makes a report to the DCI. And that report is shocking. Because, in a nutshell, what our Deputy President says is that kuna watu walikutana kwenye hoteli na njama ya kuniua. Well, we've already covered that quite extensively in the previous video. And there are developments which we'll look into towards the tail end of this show today. The second is that the legislator for Starehe, very famous musician called Njagua, is arrested for incitement. You see, his constituency covers one of the busiest, indeed the busiest market in East and Central Africa. Gikomba Market, which is mostly famous for second-hand clothes. We call them mitumba in Kenya. And also spare parts. And the Starehe legislator is saying that he wants to evict all foreign traders. And he mentions China, Uganda, and Tanzania. Actually, if truth be told, Njagua repeated exactly the same words that our internal CS, Fred Matiang'i, had earlier said, that foreigners who are doing jobs in Kenya, which local Kenyans can do, should be smoked out. That there's no reason why a foreigner should come all the way from wherever he comes from to do a job which a Kenyan can do. It is not acceptable in any country in the world. That's what Matiang'i said. And of course he used his normal forceful language that has endeared him to some Kenyans and fooled many Kenyans. So much so that people are talking about Matiang'i as a presidential candidate. Anyway, Njagua, for repeating what Matiang'i had said, but in his own words, got arrested, and is due to be charged with incitement. But my guess is that Njagua's troubles with the police are more to do with the ripple effect of his statement, because it has caused quite some chaos in Tanzania, with people calling for President John Pombe Magufuli to protect and ensure that Tanzanians in Kenya are safe. Incident number 3. Aden Duale, some people's favorite legislator, stands up in parliament and makes perhaps his most memorable, impactful, sensible contribution to a debate that I've ever had. In a nutshell, he says that he agrees there that Njagua's statements, or rather his statement, do not reflect the official position of the government of Kenya, despite the fact that he is a Jubilee legislator. Yeah, and Jubilee is the ruling party in Kenya. However, Duale adds, it is time for Kenyan parliamentarians, his colleagues, to wake up and protect Kenyans. And he gives a stunning example. The example of the story of a Kenyan lady called Sylvia Mulinge. Now, many of you are aware of the case of Madam Mulinge, which we covered extensively on this channel. She was appointed by Vodacom in Tanzania to be the chief executive officer. And this was to take over from another foreigner, but a foreigner from outside Africa. Now, those who understand the country called Tanzania well, will tell you straight off that the skill sets of this very enterprising, very skillful Kenyan executive are very difficult, if not impossible, to find in Tanzania. And there's a simple reason for that. Mulinge has a track record with Safaricom, where she has done quite a lot of very innovative things and managed quite a lot of projects that have contributed to making Safaricom the most profitable enterprise in East and Central Africa and beyond. That is not the kind of track record you get from calling people in for an interview, even here in Kenya. You don't. However, her work permit was denied. Indeed, we had information on this channel, very credible, that the President of the Republic of Tanzania, John Pombe Magufuli, personally rejected her work permit. Now, I don't know if Bwana Magufuli, His Excellency Magufuli, understands how businesses run. But from that particular action, I doubt. Because if he understood how businesses run, he would have quickly approved that work permit for one reason, and one reason alone, that it would end up creating many job opportunities for local Tanzanians. Because if I were him, and I wanted to get involved in such a small issue, then what I'd have done is to ensure that a lot of other local Tanzanians understudied Sylvia Mulinge, and got the skills, learned the skill sets. Because I stand to be corrected, but never in history, has there been a situation where you import skill sets into your country, and you create a labor force that is skilled even to do jobs internationally, by shutting the door to foreigners and shutting the door to foreign input, to raise up your skill level of your people. I have never heard of anything like that. But maybe the president of Tanzania knew what he was doing. Anyway, Aden Duale referred to that case. And then he also let it slip that the CEO of Barclays in Tanzania is a Kenyan, and is from his constituency. And this CEO tells him every day the crazy things Kenyans working in Tanzania have to go through. Lots of hardships, harassment, bullying, threats, etc., etc. And Aden Duale reminded legislators that they're there for Kenyans. They're supposed to protect Kenyans, not any other nationality. Yes, we have the East African community, but the parliament in Kenya is supposed to protect Kenyans. And therefore, he insinuated that they have done nothing to address the situation of Kenyans working in Tanzania. And therefore, although what Njagua said was uncalled for, he went too far. There are some points that people need to address. There are issues which the Kenyan parliament needs to address and look into. Because Kenya is not a dumping ground. And it makes absolutely zero sense that Kenyans cannot work in some of these East African countries. They have their work permits rejected, etc., etc. And yet those people in those foreign countries are working in Kenya. And it has gone as far as some of these foreigners doing jobs that can be done by Kenyans in Kenya. And yet Kenyans in those other countries don't have the same opportunities. They can never even get work permits in those particular countries. Now the final incident. Moses Kuria goes to the Nairobi area police station, and his mission is to see his fellow legislator, Njagua. He is completely refused access to see Njagua. But even as he's denied access to Njagua, there are demonstrators in the vicinity, and they're shouting in praise of Njagua. The demonstrators, if we can even call it a demonstration, is just a handful of people, maybe 20 to 30 people. People who can easily be calmed down by a single policeman. But what happens? Those few people are tear-gassed. And then Moses Kuria speaks to the press, and he makes a statement that causes me to stand up on my chair. Yeah? Stand up to make sure I'm awake and I'm not dreaming. And then I rewind again, and I confirm, is this really Moses Kuria? I double confirm it's actually Moses Kuria saying this. Because somebody could be imitating his voice, and it is actually Moses Kuria. What is he saying? He's saying that a revolution in Kenya is around the corner. Why? Because somebody is misadvising the government. They're making all the wrong moves. To put it in his own words, Kuria says there's somebody trying to throw fuel on a few embers, which are just starting to ignite. I'm paraphrasing, but something to that effect. Kwani, what is Moses Kuria smoking these days? Now, before we put all these incidences together and link them, there's something I have to say about Aden Duale's statement. Our leaders in the East African region need to sober up, and they need to sober up very fast for the sake of their people. It does not make any sense to me for us to have an East African community, and yet when Tanzanians come to Kenya, they're often harassed by our police. Things are made very difficult for them. And I dare say that part of the blame has to go to the Tanzanian government. Because the Tanzanian government is paranoid about Kenyans. And therefore, when Uganda, Rwanda, and Kenya agreed on free movement of their people, that is, today you can enter Uganda or Rwanda using identity card. You don't need a passport. But if you're a Kenyan trying to enter Tanzania for any purpose, even a holiday, you'd better be careful. Because if you look suspicious, and I mean suspicious, you're not a criminal. If you look like you want to do business in Tanzania, and I'm not talking from theories or things I've read. I'm talking about experiences that I've had, that have happened to Kenyans very recently. Tanzania is a sovereign country. They're free to pass their own rules and policies. But while passing those rules and policies, they'd better think through the actions. So deny Silver Mulinga a work permit, but then remember that you have Tanzanians who are seeking opportunities in Kenya, who are working in Kenya. And therefore, you go ahead and deny that work permit, but then ask your Tanzanians living in Kenya to return home. Tanzania is very rich in resources, and therefore can support all their professionals and all their people. They don't need to cross the border. They don't even need to trade with Kenya. It's not necessary. Let them just trade within the country. Or so some politicians, including the president of Tanzania, think. By the way, when these politicians make all these moves and all these decisions, guess who suffers most? It's not those politicians. They have their ways. They can do anything. They can get what they want from Kenya. They can trade in Kenya. It's very easy for them. The people who suffer are the mwananchi, the ordinary Tanzanian and the ordinary Kenyan. Now, to be very honest with you, I have no idea why Uganda were roped into this. Because Kenyans don't have a problem doing business in Uganda, unless you correct me. But in case they do, the Ugandan authorities should observe the same, as what I've just said the Tanzanians should. That if you want to deny others to trade or work in your country, recall all your nationals from that country, yeah, and then try and do things in isolation, yeah. You know, some of these decisions by our African leaders, yeah, and that includes Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and right across Africa, is the reason why many Mzungus don't think that the African or black man can think. That is the reason why many racist Mzungus still call Africans in their mind, or at the back of their mind, monkeys. Because sample this, there are very many opportunities for East Africans right across the East African region. Tanzanians are good at things that Kenyans are not good at. And Kenyans are good at things that Tanzanians are not. Yeah, and the same with Uganda. Yes, the countries are not at the same level. People fear Kenyans. They believe Kenyans are way ahead, more skilled, more educated, etc., etc. But the quickest way to correct that is to allow free movement of people, rapid transfer of skills, etc., etc., which would uplift the entire region very quickly and benefit the ordinary citizens of all the countries. And it is this short-sighted thinking by our leaders that has made people like Kagame, the president of Rwanda, look like a genius. Even in these hard times right across the region, Rwanda is booming. And why is Rwanda booming? It's very simple. It is one of the easiest places, yeah, to set up a business. And it doesn't matter where you come from. Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Europe, United States. It's very easy to set up an enterprise there. And these investors who are flocked in to Rwanda, yeah, have created massive job opportunities for locals, yeah, the Rwandese people. And the amazing thing that has happened is that within a very short time, even very many local Rwandese have set up business. Yeah, they look at what foreigners are doing in their country, they get ideas, they set up their own business, a totally Rwandese business, yeah, with all owners of the business locals and all employees locals. Anyway, apologies for my rant. Back to business. Now, before I go any further, I want you to take careful note of the fact that Njagua is a very prominent member of Team Tanga Tanga. Oh yes, in case you had forgotten. Moses Kuria was a very prominent member of Team Tanga Tanga. Aden Duale was a very prominent member of Team Tanga Tanga. Now we have a Kenyan expression that goes something like this. Huyo jamaa simuoni poa. That means you're suspicious of that particular person. Yeah, even if he has crossed the floor, if he has changed his political inclinations recently, you're still suspicious of that person. So to put it very bluntly, Moses Kuria, simuoni poa. Aden Duale, simuoni poa. And to make it clearer, in case you didn't understand, the intelligence community has a history, a very long history, of double agents. Agents who are nationals of one country and employed by that country to gather intelligence, but who actually feed intelligence, yeah, to the enemy country or to the foreign country, at the same time as they're doing patriotic duty for their country of origin. Let me just leave it at that. The long and short of what I'm trying to say is that this controversy that started as a controversy over Chinese people doing very small businesses, doing small trading businesses that Kenyans can easily do, and flocking into the country and taking away opportunities from Kenyans, which is something of real concern. Yeah, that issue has been turned into an issue that ropes in other fellow African countries, in fact neighboring countries, Kenya and Tanzania, who are not guilty of the same. Indeed, these are neighboring countries belonging to the East African community. Our Ugandan and Tanzanian brothers and sisters are not guilty of the same thing the Chinese are doing to us. They are not. However, some very clever, smart person somewhere knew that there have been simmering issues for a long time, especially between Kenya and Tanzania, yeah, vis-a-vis Kenyans working in Tanzania. And therefore the names of these two neighboring countries have been roped in to kick up dust and kick up controversy. And this idea has worked. In fact, it has worked like a charm because it has kicked up emotions amongst Kenyans and even amongst leading Tanzanian politicians and even ordinary Tanzanians. And the result is a storm of controversy is brewing. Now, what was the objective? I believe the objective was to divert attention away from certain issues that have come to the fore in recent times. That is what I believe. And I dare add, that is the main reason why Njagua was arrested. Somebody somewhere knows exactly what's happening. So now he has been arrested and they have found a charge to pin on him. And meanwhile, Duale is pushing for legislation to protect Kenyans working in the neighboring African countries. Now I can hear you asking, how does he do that? And he doesn't control things in our neighboring countries. Well, it's very simple. And let me give you a quick example. We're eating your oranges, we're eating your fruits, we're eating and importing so many things from your country. We are buying from your country, but you're making life very difficult for traders in your country. Therefore, we will no longer buy from you until you change your policies. So legislation is pushed through the House that makes it difficult, if not impossible, for that foreign country to sell things in your country. Pure and simple. Now, if something like that were to happen, it would endear certain people to voters. Certain traders and business people would suddenly become diehard supporters of certain politicians. Certain politicians would become unbeatable at the ballot box. And they would become popular right across the country overnight. And of course, the people they support or the people they will want to issue statements in future in support of will benefit. This is high-level political chess. In chess it's possible to make a move that does two things at the same time. Attacks the enemy on the chessboard and then also protects your king. And so in this case, you're diverting attention from what Kenyans should really be discussing and thinking about. You're diverting the attention away from that. And at the same time, you're building up your popularity. Now, in closing, as I promised, let's deal with the DP Ruto issue. Now, listening to Rift Valley legislators, especially the sober ones, not the ones who just make noise, the sober Rift Valley politicians, people like Gladys Boss Sholei, it is very clear that the DP's claims are not claims to them. It is a very serious issue as far as they're concerned. Naturally, this is a super sensitive issue. So if you want to get more on that, I would recommend my weekly intelligence briefs, the latest video. But what I can say on this open channel is that our attention is being diverted away from the history of the Deputy President, which is very sad, because anybody who wants to vie for the presidency of Kenya, indeed the presidency of any country, cannot run away from their history, because their history is what voters are supposed to use, sober voters, not tribally based voters or voters with tribal emotions. Their history is what voters are supposed to use to make a decision as to whether that is the right candidate to be elected president of the country. Pure and simple. And therefore, in my view, bringing up somebody's history is not incitement. It is a very serious part of the interview process. Because even if you apply for a job, you cannot tell your employer, employ me, forget about my history. That part of my history asking me about, where I was sacked for stealing funds from a certain company, ignore that. You're causing incitement. And give me this job, appoint me, based only on my strengths. Yeah? Ignore that great weakness in my history. Of course, that sounds very ridiculous. And it should sound even more ridiculous when you're considering somebody for such a serious, important, high office as President of the Republic of Kenya. That should be crystal clear to every Kenyan. Now, supporters of a certain candidate will be very quick to say those are mere allegations. Okay, I've heard you. However, we have a chapter in our constitution which deals extensively with the qualifications, especially moral ones, for anybody seeking any leadership position in our country. And there's no other way of judging a person's character, especially a politician who's seeking office. There is no other way except to look at the history. And therefore, Team Tangatanga must address the history of the presidential candidate. They must. They can never run away from that. Not ever. Now, in closing, there's a very interesting incident that appears to be retaliatory that has come in from Tanzania. A Kenyan businessman called Raphael Ogangi was kidnapped in Dar es Salaam yesterday by heavily armed men in 3 vehicles and 2 motorbikes. Now, Ogangi runs a very prosperous transport business that transports between DR Congo, Zambia, and Rwanda. And for those who don't know, there is only one organization in Tanzania that is involved in this business of kidnapping. Only one. That organization is called Usalama wa Taifa. That's the intelligence community in Tanzania. Let me just leave it at that. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.